Jacob Wimsatt here with c.w. Architects. Welcome to the studio. Today we're going to walk you through pre-design and some of the early versions of the design process. If you're watching this video, you're probably in one of two situations. The first one is that you've probably been looking at doing your own custom home for the past few months or maybe even years. You're not really sure where to start, or maybe you've been talking to a general contractor or an architect and you're not really sure what it means to actually work with an architect. In today's video, we're going to walk through just the early stages of the pre-design process and give you insight into what we're going to do day one when you first walk into our office. A little disclaimer here, c.w. Architects works on houses that range from $1 to $20 million in construction. Our process is very collaborative, very intense when it comes to the iterations and the processes behind it. Most of the time, our fees don't really make sense for anything under $1 million. So if that's not you, this probably isn't the right video for you. Another disclaimer is that every situation is different because every person's different, every building's different, so the process does vary a little bit depending on what you're trying to do. For this video, we're going to stay on a baseline just so you know generally what to expect. So to start, let's just talk about the overall pre-design process. The overall pre-design process starts with just a call, a discovery call to get a feel for what your project is and to see if we're generally a good fit for you and you're a good fit for us. From there, we schedule a site consultation. Now, the importance of a site consultation is that architecture lives between the person and the place. And our firm is trying to create something that's truly unique to you and the place that you've bought. Doing the site visit allows us to not only get eyes on the land, but also it's an opportunity for us to just brainstorm in context. We simply walk the site with you and talk about your ideas. Another thing to note is that this is a very collaborative process, and I always tell my clients that we are the navigators of the ship. You're ultimately the captain. My job is to navigate you and show you the pros and cons of each decision. Your job is to actually make those decisions. Now, there are a few things that you're going to need before we enter into a pre-design. One is going to be a survey. Now, not everybody comes to us with a survey. We can pull some data to get topography and some other information just through online resources, but eventually you're going to need one anyway, so it's good to go ahead and get that started. And the earlier, the better. A lot of times we find that our surveyors, at least here in Nashville, are 4 to 6 weeks out. So this could put a delay in your project if you're in a hurry to get started. The other thing that you're going to need is inspirational images. I don't know about other architects, but my motto is the more inspirational images, the better. A common mistake that clients come to me with when it comes to inspirational images is they're trying to categorize them when it comes to styles or whatever aesthetic that they're trying to go for. That's really not necessary. You can provide a lot of imagery and it can be very diverse imagery because most people have a lot of different things that they like, and again, we're trying to identify your unique style, your unique project goal. The third thing that you need before you come into a pre-design agreement is a great attitude when it comes to teamwork. This business, like so many other businesses, is built on relationships. One of the most important relationships is going to be between you and your architect. Now, I'm going to be straightforward with you. Pre-design is about gathering information, but it's also about building trust. Ultimately, we want to prove ourselves to you and let you understand what's underneath the hood and how we're going to work. Over the course of a few weeks, we'll be able to provide that information to you, but behind the scenes, we're actually trying to build that trust to get you to trust us because this is all about relationships and nobody wants to work with anybody that they don't trust. So dipping our toes into this pre-design is going to allow for us to see if we're a good fit for each other. And at the end of pre-design, if it doesn't work out for whatever reason, maybe we don't agree on fee, scope of work, you can take that information to another architect and have them pick up where we left off. All right, let's get into pre-design. The first thing that you need to understand as an owner, as a client, is that you cannot start specific. You have to start broad. I have so many clients that come into the office and they're worried about light fixtures, they're worried about what the oven's gonna be, the refrigerator, all that stuff is details, especially when you haven't figured out the layout of the house, where the living room's gonna go, where the master suite's gonna go. Starting broad and working to specific is the overall theme of the entire design process. So when we talk about starting broad and we're working too specific, that can come in many forms. It can come in many layers. So when you think about the site, when you think about regulations, when you think about your overall vision, your program, that is stuff that is broad. That is in the broad category. That's about as broad as you can get. We're working towards the specific of where the living room's going, where the master suite's going, how the indoor and outdoor spaces work, what are the relationships between those spaces. Those things are going to be more specific in the pre-design. So today we're only talking about pre-design, but just know that the entire theme throughout the entire design process is going to be broad to to specific. When it comes to pre-design, the first thing that we want to identify is regulations. Now, a lot of times clients come to the office, they don't have a survey. If we're waiting on a survey, we can jump into regulations, zoning regulations, HOAs, whatever regulations are tied to that specific property, that is something that we need to identify that we can design to in the future. So when we're talking about broad regulations, one of the first steps. The next step is going to be that site, that survey. Now, if we have a survey, we'll of course put that into the computer. If we don't, we'll start to collect data, and then we need that survey by the time we get into the design process. Those are very broad things. Another broad thing is going to be your program. So what you're looking to build. The most basic parts of program is I need 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, the standard thing that you hear from realtors all the time. But the reality is that we want to dig much deeper than that. We want to know where the keys go, where the backpacks go when the kids come home. What is it like whenever you're drinking coffee in the morning? What is it like to sit around with your spouse and drink wine in front of the fireplace? We want to know what you're trying to do on a much deeper level than just the number of bedrooms and bathrooms. We want to create relationships with those spaces and try to identify how you're actually going to create memories in this home. So digging into the program on a very detailed level is going to be really important, and those inspirational images are going to start to cater that. They're going to start to help us have conversations of, what do you see in this image of this living room with this fireplace? What are you actually envisioning here in your program? And then towards the end of the pre-design, we do diagramming. So we need to marry the regulations, the site, and the program and come up with a diagram, basically the start of a floor plan that starts to identify the different relationships of the spaces and how they're going to work together to achieve your project goals. Now, this isn't a design, this is actually just a planning exercise, and a lot of times what we'll do is we'll go through 2, 3, 4 iterations, just exploring some different options. Ultimately, what we're trying to do here is to eliminate missed opportunities. Now, once we get through the pre-design process, we go through a design budgeting phase. Now, when we're talking about homes that are being built at $1, $5, $10 million, there's always going to be other design professionals that are subcontract under me. For example, interior designers, a very common thing that's subcontracted under me, structural engineers, mechanical engineers. The point of this is that if we have those diagrams, we know that site, we have a good idea of what you're trying to achieve, then we'll be able to go and get pricing for not only our services, but also for structural engineering, mechanical engineering, and any other design professional that we need in order to execute the project. Pre-design is one of the most valuable things that you can do this early in the process, and actually we require it. It's something that puts us on a great foundation to get the project started in the right way. This is your forever home. This is a legacy. This is something that's going to be a stage to create memories with grandkids and last generations. If you want to understand pre-design on a deeper level and how it relates specifically to your project, fill out the form and we'll reach out to you.